Hello and welcome. It is Sunday, 13th day of May 2018, and I want to talk today about silver volatility, and right now the lack thereof. This is the daily chart for silver, but the volatility becomes very low. Look at this weekly chart, just barely moving amongst these levels in here, and even beforehand, price is pretty much always the same, it seems. Monthly chart. We look at the size of these moves. In comparison, it is just not moving in that of price. So I decided, let's go through the data of silver. I have the closing prices of silver going back to 1968 and see what I could come up with. So insert a volatility chart that I've created now. And this is at the lowest levels, only going back only twice. Once was the 1993 lows, and again in 2001. And as far as how this number is calculated, I will explain right now. And what I do is I take the maximum close and I subtract it by the minimum close, and divide that by the minimum close again to get volatility. I'm doing such for the last 400, 150, and 65 days. Then I take the average of those three numbers, and to get the number out of decimal, I multiply it by 100. And if I can make a comparison, going back to how this started, here's a situation on this run-up in the early 1970s. And then it has a low volatile pullback just before the major moves that took place 1979 through 1980, where the price almost went 10 times in 1 year, or pretty much did go about that, 7, 8, 9 times gains. And then of course now we have from the bottom in here, it does this run up. So could you compare this run up here and then the move lower in here, comparing it maybe again to this one in here. For one thing I also take from this is that volatility. It got up to levels seen in 1988. It got up to levels it surpassed and held in 1980 for several periods. Each one of these days represents 83 days, by the way. It's an 83-day time frame on the candles. But I'm not going to talk much more about this. When I look at all asset classes that I have the choice, myself as a human, in holding as long-term money, quote unquote, thus a vehicle to store your value for the long-term time frame, something that you never plan on using for 10 plus years, something you would like to appreciate in value, but most importantly, you don't want it to get destroyed in value. I cannot say holding fiat currencies is safe to hold and not get destroyed in value. There has been several cases before where hyperinflation has become problematic, and because people are now familiar with how fiat currencies have been created, they have been so for 10 years, plus at least that information has been available for quite some time. There's a decent chance that there's going to be a big problem in the fiat currency, and even in situations of just holding it, then you could lose a lot through inflation. But people who've been holding silver now for 10 years could say, silver's down $2 an ounce since I got in at $18 an ounce. Now it's at $16. So I've lost on the value. And even in the long-term game, it can be very, very difficult. For me, I like to hold multiple different things, but cryptocurrencies, I believe, is another vehicle again to help accumulate such, because at least in the United States and Canada, it is very easy to accumulate physical silver via that of cryptocurrencies. So trading such successfully, having successful gains in cryptos can enable myself and anyone else who chooses to do so to be able to accumulate such within the metal. But the one thing that cryptocurrencies do teach is that when those markets go, they can go really, really big as far as huge gains so far, so fast. And silver has been the same way within its historical run, at least going back since this data here. For again, the gain in 1979 was going from like $5 an ounce to 50. And 2011 and 2010 through 11, price action broke a resistance point at around high 17s or $18, and then it goes up to 50 from there. So having high volatile moves that occur very quickly, that would thus turn this back higher, is to be expected, because with charts like this, the volatility, it's always going to chop back and forth. It's not going to trend like many traditional markets may. You got lower ends and you got higher ends. And you know only one thing can occur when you get to each one of those levels. And that is to go to the opposite place. So only one thing can happen from here, and that the volatility is going to have a move that's going to come back towards this level. And then in situations of a possible major fiat currency problematic move, hyperinflation, and gains of 9, 10, 15x, then we start talking about breaking this level of resistance and then staying above this line for maybe longer than it did before, or at least staying above this area. We'll see. So thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.